listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Meghan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for complication.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Chronically Automated podcast. I'm your host, Meghan Donnelly.
And I'm your co-host, Anthony Labasco.
And this is our podcast all about neurodiverse, like people trying to be business owners and, technology that doesn't work or does work and all of the things that you have to deal with as a business owner and just life in general with a neurodiverse brain. And it's the first episode of 2026. Woo, woo, woo. I can't believe I just did that. My kids would be so embarrassed. I just raised the roof, whatever. Like they would be, can I dab? Can we dab?
I did not do that. So I'm
all right.
fine.
I feel like
You're not gonna
I'm not allowed. Apparently, I'm not allowed to floss. New for 2026, in case anybody was wondering. I'm in my 40s. I'm not allowed to floss. I'm not allowed to dab. I'm not allowed, like I have this, like there's this list from my teenage boys of all of the things that apparently we as parents are not cool enough to do anymore. Like, well, that sucks. Like, I'm going to do them anyway. Damn, I'm kidding.
Yay, do it on video forever. Last forever.
Yes, and we're going to post it on YouTube. Should I say all their names right now and like tag them so that they get really embarrassed? I'm kidding. All right, moving on. I thought today, so what I wanted to do, since this is our first episode of the year, I kind of want to have the discussion, and we didn't script this. We didn't even really plan it, come up with talking outlines. We just said, this is the topic we want to talk about. And I'm really excited about it.
Not that we ever script anything.
We don't script it, but we always have like talking points, right? Like we always like figure out what we want to talk about. And this episode, I really just told Anthony, I said, nope, let's just jump in and have a conversation about the whole like new year, new you crap. I call it crap. And we're going to talk about why and just kind of go through that conversation of maybe what we think is going to happen for 2026, trends, where we see things going with stuff we normally talk about, and what we think 2026 is going to be all about. So I'm going to let you start because I would love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, he's like, what? I get to talk? Woo, she's going to shut up for 5 seconds. Because I want to hear your take on this whole like new year, new you thing. Yes, but I want to hear your take on this, like the new year, new you. Like it happens every year, right? Like every time January hits, it's like this big thing. And I have very strong opinions on how I feel about it, but I want to hear what you think. Like, what are your normal, I don't know if traditions is the right word, but we'll say traditions or habits. What are your normal habits in like January after the year ends? Like, what do you do? Is there anything cool, specific that you do to prepare yourself for the next year?
Well, I am so glad that you asked me that because that is a completely loaded question because this is my first year of going into 2026 with revenue, with a business that is in hyper growth and hyper focus and having a great team with me. I've never had that before. I've always wished every single year that I had this, right? So that's literally been my focus, right? So, being neurodiverse, I've always wondered how I can really get into this situation that I'm in right now as a solopreneur that is have a 6-figure business and on my way to a 7-figure business as a solopreneur this year. I would just say that for me, Meghan, I've put everything literally on its head. For me, I'm going to talk about the law of opposites, the from Seinfeld, what George did, things not working. He did the complete opposite. And that's literally how I met my wife. I just did the complete opposite of whatever I've done throughout my life. And then I met my wife, which is great. So I've done the same thing this year, so every year, and that's a great question. Every year I've always been a list of, what I'm going to do. And maybe this month and next month, I'm going to be able to figure out an idea that I'm going to be able to execute and then wonder why I can't because I'm so tired and I'm all over the place because my head is totally screwed up and I didn't know why. And now I'm not that way. I stopped drinking inadvertently. That wasn't a resolution or anything. I did that. And now, my brain fog everything is clear. I can see clearly now.
Hey,
I know. I had to do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
yes.
But
Can
because
we
exactly. And I'm a
soundbite
very
that?
bad.
I think we're gonna soundbite that. We're gonna when
I was
in
hoping that you were
post.
going to actually sing because you're a real singer. But anyway, so,
Nobody on
with
this
all that being said,
podcast or in our world has heard me sing yet, though. So maybe I'm not a real singer. I'm
If
not
a
going there.
tree falls in the forest and tree
Can
falls
see
in the forest and you won't
clearly
hear it,
now the
I mean,
rain is gone. Yeah.
there we go.
All right. There we go.
So going into this year, I have a clear head. I have a business that is in hyper growth right now. So I am just grateful and I'm going with it. And when things are working, what I've done very quietly is that I've laid out an operations plan in my goals for my operations plan, revenue goals, and just boom, how you hit
All right.
that.
So
And,
I'm gonna stop
you
you.
know,
I'm gonna stop
okay.
you because, and I'll tell you why. What I haven't heard you say, and it's the thing that I hate, which is amazing to me. But all of this, like everything that you're talking about, we have been working on together for months. So this is not like January, new you, new Anthony. This has been like 3, 4 months. So when I
Longer
say
than
that I
that.
can't,
Exactly.
right, since the summer, really, and when we kind of kicked it into overdrive, and then we kind of, you revamped like what you wanted to offer, and then we revamped everything. So what I mean though is you didn't wait. Like you could have very easily in August, as we were really going into hyper mode, you're like, oh, we'll launch this in the new year. No. Okay. So this
No
is what
way.
I'm trying to say. This is why I hate new year, new you. It's the same you. It's just a different year. You are still the same person. You should not be waiting. So the statistic is like something like 87% of people who make New Year's resolutions. This is why I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. If they fail them, they don't keep them. And they usually don't keep them by like, what's today? The 15th. This is not perfect. We're literally recording this on January 15th. This is the date that everybody's New Year's resolutions are usually gone. Like they've already broken them. They've already whatever. Why? Excuse my language. This is going to be a very sweary episode. And yes, sweary is now a word. I'm going to put it in the dictionary. When you see swearing or sweary in the dictionary, you're going to see my face. This is why I think New Year's resolutions are fucking stupid. Stupid. Because 87% of the people that make them don't keep them. You don't need to wait for the new year to start a new thing. If it is Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock on, in the middle of May, and you decide that you want to start a newsletter, start a damn newsletter. Like if you decide that that is a thing that is going to help you move your goals forward, and like that's something you want to do, then do it. Okay, so it's kind of one of those things where should you reflect on the year before? Of course. But that is different than New Year, New Year's resolutions. Like that's totally different. And we'll talk about that in a second. What I want to stop seeing from people who, and some of my favorite people still do this, the New Year's resolution thing. What I want to stop seeing is that it's like this big, huge thing. There's all this momentum. You should be using that momentum and that energy all year long. All year
Right.
long.
I look at
Figure out a
Megan,
way
I
to
look
keep
at
yourself pumped up,
exactly. And I'm going to give it the bobsled metaphor, right? So in
Bobsled
bobsled,
metaphor.
right? So what are
Like
you
this
doing when
bobsled where
what are
you
you doing?
actually sit on the bobsled and go down the hill.
Right, but before you
Okay.
do that, they're running to, get some momentum and everything, and then they jump
You're
on. And
talking
that's
like a real
exactly,
bobsled, like the professionals,
yeah, like a
not
real
like
bobsled. Exactly. The
not
ones
like a
from the Olympics,
toboggan
right?
on like the hill in my backyard.
No, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
so, that's exactly how I view it. You build momentum, especially when you have a new business. You build momentum and, really having a compelling event must be, for the business where I cannot fail. We cannot fail. And that's the thing. So with that mindset, there is no downtime in that respect that you are now thinking about, oh, what am I going to do next year? No, you know
Yep.
what? We worked all
Yep.
year, but then in that last month in December, I used that month, the last couple of weeks when there was downtime to work on all aspects of the business. So then come in January when I was wishing everyone was around so I can work on with everyone, they were, right, taking a break and things like that. Then once the new year hit and we were all ready to go back to work and everything like that, or everyone else was kind of back from, taking downtime, necessary downtime, boom, it was the momentum was there and ready to go. And that's it. I feel I'm with you. I'm very strong about, not putting things off until next year. No way. You quietly work on your goals and everything. And it's amazing when you do that. They all fit into exactly what you want to do in terms of your revenue goals and, all that. So
And we're back. Technical difficulties. Sorry about that. I don't even know what Anthony was saying. What I was gonna say though, and I remember kind of what we were talking about.
thank you
We
for
were
not
talking about.
listening, Megan. Thank you.
I was listening. You were talking about why you don't wait for the new year to start things. What I was gonna piggyback off that with and say, we have the luxury being a small business owner, right, with a small team of people or a solo entrepreneur. When you're a solo entrepreneur, you have the luxury of picking and choosing how you deal with your years, right? Like, and your goals and your budgeting, right? Because with larger corporations, they have an end of the year cutoff when it comes to software and money and budgeting, right? And then they have a 12-month where they do their fiscal year, and you as a solo entrepreneur and small teams, hey, all you people out there that are listening, like, you guys have the luxury of not having to do it that way. You can do a rolling 12, which is what I love. I do a rolling 12 for my year, right? So it's a rolling 12 months so that I'm always iterating. I'm always thinking about my metrics and my numbers and my KPI. And it's on a rolling 12 months. It doesn't start in January and stop in December. It rolls because that's the best way to see historical data. That's the best way when you really get down and dirty with money and KPIs and metrics and things that you're tracking. When you do a rolling 12, you actually have better control over what's going on. Now, it gets a little wonky, obviously, if you're an LLC or an S Corp or even a sole proprietorship, because you still have to do your taxes, right? So there's that kind of stuff. So from a financial standpoint, again, I am not a financial advisor. I'm just going to throw this out there. So you need to talk to somebody like an accountant or a bookkeeper. The bookkeepers will handle that. But from a business operations standpoint, I don't, it's a rolling 12. So all of my goals and all of that roll with me. So I can see trend lines and I can see trends based on seasons and where it is, throughout these rolling 12 months versus starting and stopping. Now, like I said, your bookkeeper is going to, obviously have to start and stop books based on tax season and all that stuff. But that's totally different though. If you take money off the table and you think about just running the operations outside of the money portion of your business, you don't have to. You don't have to start January like it's a new year, let's do this. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I find that a lot of people, it's almost like you're starting the year off with a loss, because for that 87% of you what do you think happens after they don't meet their New Year's resolution? Where does their dopamine go? Then they feel like a failure because they already failed and didn't do the thing that they were going to do for the new year. Stop doing that to yourself. Just stop it. Like, that's the part that I don't get. If you eliminate that whole New Year thing, if you just eliminate it from your repertoire, and I'm not doing New Year's resolutions. Maybe you're going to do July resolutions. Maybe you're going to do or better yet, you build those lifestyle goals, right? Because we always talk about building the lifestyle that you love. Build a lifestyle goal, and like a small one, like you want to buy a new car. I mean, I guess that's not super small, but you know what I mean? Like something that's attainable. You know how much money you need to get there. And then when you get that, you create another goal, like another lifestyle goal. And then you can celebrate and you can do, I don't know, I guess but it's still not new you stuff. That's why I can't stand that whole like new year, new you thing, because it doesn't actually, it's like work life balance. It's not a thing that actually exists. You got to
Yeah.
figure out, we got to like figure out a way to flip the script on this or change it. And I don't know who's going to start the revolution, but maybe it's this Be Better thing that we've started with Nat and Darren, right? Like the Be Better community is all about being better one day at a time, one task, one day, really short. And you know what? It's not seasonal. It's not new year, new you. It's just one day at a time. For the rest of your life, you do this one thing every day to give yourself a small win so that you have the dopamine and you feel better about yourself and you feel confident about yourself. And then you do it again the next day. That's where the real wins are.
Yeah.
Not trying to like compound this stuff down into one every January you're going to reinvent yourself. Give me a break. Why would you want to do that for the rest of your life? That sounds awful.
Look, I mean, a lot of people, and including myself up until this point, overthought everything. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to, yeah, it just comes down to whether or not, you're working full time, or maybe something in your, with your health and the way that you're working professionally and your work life balance, but maybe you have something inside of you that wants to start a business, or maybe you've always wanted to start a business. So then, just taking little steps really is like, you can do that. For me, it's been a little step
Yep.
over the past 20 years, which is great, but it didn't really, when it came down to it, when shit hit the fan with me, when I had to reinvent my whole career, it was like, whoa, I kind of have to do this, but I wasn't starting from scratch. But what I learned, Meghan, is that, this isn't something that you are, once a year, you're saying, great.
Yep.
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work harder. No, it was the wake up call for me. And I think a lot of solopreneurs, and I think a lot of even entrepreneurs are, we just have to keep moving, doing it. And on the way, like you said, you have little goals that you are accomplishing and everything like that. And then maybe, the following year, thinking about what the market conditions are and thinking about historically what happened with your business and everything like that too, what it is that you can do in that following year. That's great. But you got to have something going, and you have to be able to do that. And one last thing I want to just say that this was all by design, at least for me. And I know for you, and I know for a lot of people, especially reading this too, is that I've built a business around my health. And this woman right here showed me that that can be done. And I didn't believe that that could be done. Once you start to do that, and then once all of a sudden, great, you feel great one day, but maybe one day you don't, and that actually did happen to me yesterday. I didn't feel great for some reason. And that maybe it took out like an hour or two. It wasn't terrible. But, that being said, it reminded me of how important it is to have a career, have a business, and have an infrastructure in place where you're able then to take your neurodiverse, world and everything and put that into a framework that actually is going to support that. And that's really when the new year comes and everything is just a reiteration of some things that you might be doing. But to your point, like you're not reinventing yourself every single year. I mean, come on, that's exhausting. I'm exhausted thinking about that.
Yeah. So I'm thinking we pivot. We talk about, let's give people like what should you do instead, right? Okay, so here we are telling you not to try to reinvent yourself every year. Let's talk about what to do instead, because we're obviously not just going to sit here and preach at you and then not give you some ideas on different ways to do things. So one of my new favorite things that I can't believe that I didn't think of this before, but what a great exercise. So for anybody who hasn't heard of Mel Robbins, you've been living under a rock. And you should climb out from under your rock and go listen to her podcast. Her first episode of 2026 was freaking amazing. It was so freaking cool. So she is on the same boat that we are, like that they don't do like New Year's resolutions, right? Like, cause that just doesn't work. What she does give you is some really great freaking tips on ways to reflect on your last year, what worked, what didn't, kind of how to use that in your new year or in your new world. And what I'm thinking for us being neurodiverse, and here we are telling you to do a rolling 12. For those of you that are with us, you're sitting there in front row with your hand raised, like, yep, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I get what you guys are saying. I'm with you, Anthony and Meghan. For those of you that are like this, I recommend doing this once a quarter. So what she said to do, and it was the coolest thing, and I did it, and it was so insightful. You take your phone, not even kidding you, you take your phone and you go all the way back to, so January of 2025, and you look through every single picture, nothing else but just the pictures, and you start to remember. And so for us who are creators, like, I have all these crazy videos, I have all these, like, it's insane. The trip to DC with my dad's burial and like all of this stuff. And what she wants you to do is you go through and you remember every good day and every bad day. And what I did is I kind of took her method and put my neurodiverse brain, ADHD brain spin on it, right? Because she's got like a workbook and you're supposed to write it down. I was like, yeah, well, I'm not doing that. Like, yeah, I'm going to write it down. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck having Meghan use a journal and the right stuff. No. So I voice typed. I did. So I was super hit. So I sat and I did this for like hours. And what I did is I took my iPhone and I turned on the voice recorder.
Yes, I was just going to say you probably did that, right?
And sat in my sun porch. And as I opened and went through, and I opened every photo, so it was big. And I went through I was like, oh, wow. And I was like literally just talking about my year. Now, for anybody, and we'll give Anthony a little quiz and see if he can come up with the answer. What do you think happened? So first of all, I went through, if you could imagine how many photos for 12 months, right? How many photos I have, right? And videos and all the things. And I'm voice recording and I'm talking and I'm like just talking to myself, basically. Roxy probably thought I was nuts because I'm sitting there like talking to my phone, even though I'm not actually talking to her.
I know. She doesn't seem to have a problem falling asleep or relaxing.
Yeah, she's just, whatever. She's used to it now.
She's learned to tune you out.
What do you think I now have? What do you think I can now do with this transcript of 2.5 hours of me looking through my photos and talking about everything that went?
You can set your goals for 2026, or not goals, but you can easily look at directions and you can see what worked and see what didn't work and have a blueprint for, going into this year and saying, you know what, maybe you should do more of this. Maybe you should do more of that. And right?
Kind of.
No, I didn't get it right.
Content. Right. I now have 2.5 hours of me talking in my voice about stories. And, and there's even a section in there where Richie came in the room. He said, what are you doing? And I was like, look at this. You remember when Race and we were talking about our kids? We were talking about things that we did in DC. And we were looking through pictures together and having a conversation. Telling.
Yeah.
I now have like 2.5 hours worth of sound bites of my voice doing this, because I use these transcripts to create every single piece of content that has ever been created by Meghan. Gold. It's pure gold,
brilliant.
Anthony.
That's brilliant.
Yes! I was like, holy shit. So now that's that is not a New Year's resolution, but that is something I'm going to do at the end of every year now, because we are busy, right? And we don't remember. And it was amazing how many good things that happened, because have you ever noticed at the end of the year that you only remember the bad shit? No. Remember when this sucked, and
exactly.
This sucked, and this sucked, and this sucked, and it's like we fester on it. And so then you're sitting there trying to make a New Year's resolution while you're festering on all the bad shit that happened. Do you know what I was doing? And as I'm like kind of listened back through this voice recording of me going through I was like, oh my God, look at this. Remember when we got to pet the goats at the winery? And like, oh my God, look at this. And like, it was all the good moments.
Yeah.
Because who takes a picture of the bad moments of their life?
Yeah, that's good. Well,
dopamine. I was like so excited and pumped, and I had plugged this thing into Claude and GPT, and I was like, it's amazing. Stop making New Year's resolutions that you're not going to keep. Start figuring out ways, like use this Mel Robbins thing. Man, I wish I thought of it. I'd be like a bazillionaire. I'd sell it. I'm just kidding. This idea is like worth its weight in gold. It was so fun and it was so cool.
And it's so
Think about things like
logical.
that.
It's so
Try to
easy.
come.
It's so logical to
Yeah,
do too. Yeah, it
exactly.
makes perfect sense.
Keep it stupid simple. Try to find ways like that and so instead of creating resolutions and goals, quote unquote, do reflections on your life.
I love that.
Reflect on your lifestyle.
Absolutely love that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Anthony's reflecting, like, I gave up drinking and it was amazing. Darren gave up drinking and he talks about how awesome he feels and how amazing it is, right? Remember the good stuff. You have to remember the bad stuff. You do. So I still recommend that you somehow figure out what the bad things were and like really be honest with yourself about why they were bad, what didn't work, because you want to make the same mistakes and repeat them.
Really cool thing about that is that you can look at it, you could look at a memory and you could look at a picture and say, oh wow, I was away with the family here at this moment. There was a sunset and here I am sitting here with a selfie and my kids are making fun of me and saying, hey, selfies and embarrassing us. But then I think about, hey, maybe leading up to that, I was confused about something or, I didn't know what was happening. So that was a real win for me to be in that moment and really appreciate that and take that all in. And and those are the kinds of things, you're right, that you can't, off the top of your head, you can't really remember that until you're living it in your, what's that?
I'm gonna give you guys a really good example of how you can remember the bad and the good out of like a single picture, right? So, or a single moment in time, and then you can kind of reflect on that. One of the things we did last year, it was sad but really amazing. In June, we went to DC. My father was buried in Arlington National Cemetery, and Anthony knows some of this story. But so like the entire family went, obviously, and we decided to extend and not just stay for the weekend. We stayed for a whole week, and because the kids had never been to DC before, and we wanted to do all the museums. Thank freaking God I did. I'll tell you why. It doesn't matter what political side you're on. Thank freaking God I did. That week that we came back, the day after we came back, and so I have all these great memories, right? And like I was telling all these stories, I was looking through pictures, super funny stories in the museums. The kids had a really good time. There was a lot of laughter, and we had this amazing Airbnb with like a rooftop pool, and you could see the White House from like the pool, and it was just really, really cool. The day that we got back was the day that the police and the National Guard were released on the National Mall, right? And honestly, isn't that to talk politics or whatever? I don't care which side you sit on. I really don't. You do you, whatever. But that is not something that I would have wanted to be like touristing in DC for, right? And so it was one of those things where you remember the good and the bad. So as you're going through your pictures and you're remembering all the amazing things that you're taking pictures of, and all the amazing things, you'll remember the stuff like, oh my God, why do I have 50 of these same videos? Well, because they all sucked until like, oh, video number 10, 10 takes in. And then you remember why they sucked and you remember what you didn't like about them. And then so that you're able to like talk about it and you're able to not repeat the same mistakes because you can reflect. But I'll tell you, by reflecting on the good stuff first versus only focusing on the bad stuff and the stuff that I want to change and New Year's like resolutionize or whatever, once you take all that away and you focus on the good stuff first, the bad stuff doesn't seem as bad.
Yeah.
Because by the end of going through that whole thing, I was like, holy shit, I accomplished a lot last year. I did so much stuff. Like there's funny pictures of me screenshotting our podcast, like when we have technical difficulties and just us joking back and forth and like we're frozen, And like it's like, oh my God, Anthony, I had so much fun. We launched Chronically Automated. Like it was just this really cool whirlwind of stuff. So I highly encourage everyone to go do that. The other one, and I don't know if you have any like tips or tricks for people, but I was going to go into the metrics part of it because
No, you're on a roll. Keep going.
And you guys have all heard me say it, but I'm going to continue saying it until every single person who owns a business actually gets it in their brain. If you can't measure the success of what you're working on, stop working on it. That is like all year round. That is a rolling forever lifetime thing. So that's kind of another reason, like
the New Year's resolution, why are you creating, like, what's the resolution for? Does it actually improve your lifestyle? Does it actually improve like what your actual goals, right? When you started a business, when you think about, like, let's take Brand Built, for example. We've given it, we said 5 years, right? Nat and Darren first started it, and then they brought me on, right? But the goal was they're doing this for 5 years, all in, everything we've got. They brought me on. I'm now on board. Right? I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. We are all in. But so what am I going to do? Every year for 5 years, come up with a new resolution? No. Like, that just doesn't even make sense. So for metrics for me, I'm tracking them every month or every quarter, right? I'm now pretty good. I can track every quarter. But I used to, when I was first starting out, I would track these things every month. And what I mean every month is I was time tracking everything, what I was working on, what was eating away at my time. And this is all stuff that shouldn't be a New Year's resolution. This should just be things that you should be doing.
Yeah.
Time tracking, okay? Everyone, like, New Year's resolutions is, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to spend more time doing this. I'm going to spend more time doing that. No. If you actually want to do that thing, you need to be doing it all year long, and you need to come up with a tracking system to figure out how you're eliminating that thing. That's the reason these resolutions fail, is because there's no tracking system and there's no success metric.
Well, right. And the one thing I will say about resolutions, right? Are really, I mean, it's, even in sales, right? Good salespeople, they sell sometimes features than other salespeople. They're selling the pain and everything, but great salespeople and really just people in general, we should be doing with our resolutions, outcomes. We are selling outcomes. That's what it comes down to. And for us as well, it's not a matter of what we have to do. Okay, I'm going to quit drinking. Well, for me, I inadvertently stopped drinking. I didn't go out. I didn't intentionally do it. I just, I'm an entrepreneur. I stopped doing it for a couple of weeks. I felt great. I was like, why am I going back? And there was a big positive benefit for somebody with autoimmune, somebody with multiple sclerosis, that actually was like, wow, what a moron I was for drinking. But, in any case, the point is that when you are able to equate that to an outcome, then everything else kind of follows up and you figure out how to actually do that. And I think that is one of the things that is very important. So for me, I'm going to be looking this year at outcomes. I want to go on.
But you're going to do it all year long. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
You're going to create these lifestyle outcome goals, if you will. And maybe, again, goals, outcome, whatever word you want to use. But you're creating them all year round. You're not like waiting for the new year. And come December, you're not going to be like, oh, it's December 2nd. I can't do that. I'll just wait until January. No. Like,
No.
I mean, if you have time off and you have vacations and you have stuff like that, you plan your life around those goals, around those, like, vacation. That, yeah, of course. But that should be, again, something that happens year round, all year long, right?
I love that.
I mean, if anybody who listens to us has never followed Mondo on LinkedIn, you should. Salavanti, I think is how I always say it wrong. So I apologize, Mondo, if you're listening and I butchered your name again. But he does a really amazing, so he is a financial planner and advisor. And he works with some really big people with some really large cash flows. But he's like 27, 28 years old, now newly married, and he's got his shit figured out. Like, him and his wife, Natia, they like plan 5 vacations a year, and they plan their work, life, everything around how they want to live. That is what everybody should be doing. So if you want to see somebody who's young and figuring it out, and like, if I was in my 20s, I wish that he hadn't been born yet, but I wish I could have met somebody like him in my 20s to show me how to do that. Like, he's doing he's practicing what we preach, building the lifestyle, using the money now instead of just waiting until you retire. And then what do you do when you retire? You sit around on your ass and twiddle your thumbs? Like, no. Like, maybe people will golf, and by that point, you're old enough, you're tired, you don't want to, like, maybe go jet setting across. Maybe you do for a little while, But then if you wait until you're 65, 70 years old to retire and then live your retirement life, screw that. I want to travel in my 50s. I want to travel in my 60s. I want to have a life and enjoy it before and before I'm ready to die. Bill Fanter is one of mine and Anthony's favorite people on LinkedIn because he is awesome. He is hilarious. He's a day trader. Well, he does way more than just day trading, but he's very, very cool. Such a cool guy. Did you see his post the other day? He was like, I can't remember the exact hook, but in the line, right after that, he's like, I hate to break it to you, and I don't mean to be morbid, but we're all going to die. And then he went into his LinkedIn post, and it was all about what we just talked about. Why are you waiting to live your life? If you wait until you're 65, 68, 70 years old to retire and live your life, you're old, you're tired, you don't want to do anything then. You literally just want to lie there. That doesn't sound exciting.
No.
I don't get the whole I'm going to work until retirement age and then I'm going to retire. No. Figure out. That's why you should all go talk to Mondo. You should go talk to him because he's really great at figuring out the money. Anyway, I could soapbox about this forever. But I know, Anthony, you've got a call. We're going to wrap it up. TLDR, if you are like us, you should and you don't necessarily believe in New Year's resolutions, New Year's goals, New Year, New You, all that crap, that hype that happens every freaking January. If you are sick and tired of it, share this episode. Share this episode with your friends and your people.
The best thing I got out of this was looking at all my pictures.
Oh my God. Do it.
Myself.
Yes.
Just talking about it.
I'm so excited. It's so much fun. Yes. Everybody, grab your phone. Go take a look at all your pictures. And, if you're a writer, awesome. Write it down. My quick tip is turn on. I'm not exactly sure how to do it on a Samsung or Android, guys. Sorry. If you're on an iPhone, literally swipe down, hit the voice record, swipe back up. As you scroll through, just talk to yourself. Yes, it's going to be weird. Who cares? There's no one around. Go sit by yourself so people don't look at you strange. Don't do it in a coffee shop. People will look at you like you're crazy. Like the lady with the cats. Don't do that. But it was such a good exercise. I highly recommend everybody do it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. I'm sorry I went on a tangent.
I love your tangent, Megan. I missed your tangent. The first tangent of 2026.
First tangent of 2026.
Not the last.
Definitely not the last. Yeah. New year. Go. Whatever. Chronically automated, everybody. Remember, technology, systems, your brain, all of this stuff. It's all good when it works. And when it doesn't, who cares? You're not trying to solve world peace. No one gives a shit at the end of the day. And we will see you next week to give you more wonderful whatever this is.